Zarates was no ordinary being. He was an assassin of unimaginable skill, known throughout the galaxy as the silent, deadly shadow that took out targets without a trace. His reputation among the stars was legendary. No one had ever escaped his gaze, and no one had ever survived his strike. His services were in high demand, and he was a favorite of the Galactic Empire for the more delicate assignments. One day, Zarates received a new mission, to eliminate a seemingly insignificant human family on Earth. The Empire had been monitoring Earth for some time and deemed this family a low-profile threat, something not worthy of the Empire's full attention. The family had no political power, no military strength, nothing that suggested they could pose a threat to the Empire. The only thing that caught the Empire's attention was their strange, seemingly harmless pets. Zarates wasn't worried. He had taken out far more dangerous beings than these Earthlings. The family's pets, described as nothing more than domestic creatures, seemed like no challenge at all. A dog, a serpent, and some strange bird were all he had to deal with. He was confident it would be over quickly. No need for special planning or precaution. After all, it was just a family and their pets. The mission seemed straightforward, so Zarates didn't waste time. He immediately activated his cloaking device, the latest piece of alien tech he had, which allowed him to blend into his surroundings. As he cloaked himself, he prepared for the kill with cold precision. The family would never see it coming. Zarates arrived on Earth under the cover of darkness, landing silently near the family's home. His advanced cloaking technology kept him hidden from any eyes, even those of the most observant humans. He moved like a shadow, silent and swift, as he approached the house. He had done this hundreds of times before, stealth was his specialty. From the safety of the trees, Zarates observed the family's house, taking in the surroundings. At first glance, it seemed like any other quiet suburban home. Nothing appeared out of the ordinary. But as he focused on the family's pets, a strange feeling began to creep into his mind. The first pet he noticed was a dog, huge, easily the size of a tiger, with fur that shimmered faintly in the moonlight. Its eyes glowed a haunting shade of yellow, and it sat by the front door like a guardian. Zarates instinctively felt a twinge of unease. Dogs were supposed to be friendly, domesticated creatures. But this one, it didn't look like any dog he had ever seen before. Its eyes were sharp, intelligent, watching the world with a sense of purpose. There was something about it that didn't sit right. Next, Zarates turned his attention to the serpent, a long, sleek creature that moved like a whisper through the grass. The serpent slithered with an unnerving grace, its scales reflecting the faint light of the moon. But what struck Zarates as odd was the way the creature moved. It didn't move aimlessly like an ordinary snake, it was purposeful, almost deliberate, like it was on guard. The assassin narrowed his eyes. There was something strangely intelligent about this serpent, as if it knew exactly what was happening around it. Finally, Zarates saw the bird, a massive bird of prey, perched high above on the roof of the house. Its sharp, hawk-like eyes scanned the area around it, never missing a single movement. It was completely still, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. Zarates had seen many creatures in his time, but this bird, it wasn't like anything he had encountered before. It was as if it was watching him, not just observing the world around it. The bird's intense gaze sent a chill down Zarates' spine. For the first time in a long while, Zarates felt a flicker of uncertainty. These pets weren't like normal creatures. They seemed too aware of their surroundings. Too intelligent. But Zarates quickly dismissed the feeling. He was an expert, he had been trained for decades, and no Earth animal, no matter how strange, would stand in his way. He would complete this mission just like all the others. It would be easy. The longer Zarates observed the pets, the more uneasy he became. Each one of them, this family's pets, seemed to be more than just animals. The dog's watchful eyes followed his every movement, and Zarates couldn't shake the feeling that it was calculating his next move. The dog shifted slightly, its body tensing, as though ready to spring into action at any moment. The serpent, too, seemed to be aware of him. It slithered closer to the shadows where Zarates hid, and for a brief moment, it looked directly into his eyes, almost as if it could see through his cloaking device. Zarates froze, his heart skipping a beat. How could this animal sense him? Impossible. And the bird, its gaze never wavered. It wasn't just observing its surroundings, it was watching him, waiting. Zarates could feel the weight of its eyes on him, as if the bird knew exactly where he was hiding. Zarates shook his head. This was ridiculous. These were just pets, right? Simple creatures, bred for companionship. Nothing more. His professional pride, however, told him not to take chances. He had dealt with far more dangerous foes than this, but still, he couldn't shake the nagging feeling that these pets were different. As the minutes ticked by, Zarates found himself distracted by the strange behavior of the creatures. The tension in the air grew thicker, and the silence of the night felt oppressive. Something wasn't right. But before he could act on his instinct to retreat, the family's front door opened, and a man stepped out, followed by the pets. Zarates watched, heart pounding in his chest. The family appeared to be just as ordinary as the house had seemed at first. They didn't seem to notice the presence of the assassin lurking in the shadows, but the pets, oh the pets, were on high alert. The dog's eyes locked onto the man, the serpent's head lifted, and the bird's sharp talons flexed as it leaped into the air, gliding silently above the family. Zarates steeled himself, preparing to take the family down in one swift motion. But as he made his move, something unexpected happened. The pet sprang into action. The dog lunged forward with lightning speed, faster than any animal Zarates had ever seen. Its jaws snapped shut mere inches from the assassin's arm, and its strength was enough to send him reeling backward. The serpent slithered faster than a striking cobra, wrapping around his legs, coiling with unnatural precision. And the bird, it swooped down from above, talons extended, aiming for his throat. Zarates barely had time to react. These pets were not what he had expected. They moved with precision, with purpose, as if they were trained for this very moment. These pets were not just animals. They were predators, apex hunters. And Zarates, he was their prey. Zarates had always prided himself on his ability to stay calm and composed, even in the most dangerous situations. But tonight, for the first time in a long while, his confidence was shaken. His initial plan had been simple: approach the family, eliminate the targets, and leave without a trace. But now, everything was unraveling in front of him, and it was all because of the family's pets. The dog was the first to strike. With incredible speed and agility, it lunged at Zarates, its jaws snapping with deadly precision. He barely had time to react as the massive creature twisted in mid-air, narrowly avoiding his first strike. Zarates tried to counter by using his energy blade, but the dog was already moving again, twisting its body in a way that was almost unnatural. Before Zarates could recover from his failed strike, the dog's powerful paws slammed into his chest, knocking him off balance. He stumbled back, trying to maintain his footing, but the creature was relentless. It wasn't just trying to kill him, it was trying to subdue him, to disable him first. Zarates had never encountered an animal like this before, one so intent on thinking ahead and blocking his every move. He wasn't just facing a predator, he was facing an intelligent tactician. At that moment, a flash of movement near his legs caught his attention. The serpent had coiled around his legs, its cold, slick body wrapping around him with terrifying strength. Zarates gasped as he felt the constricting pressure tighten around his calves, and before he could react, the serpent tightened its grip, pulling him to the ground. Its eyes gleamed with intelligence, watching him struggle as though it were calculating the best moment to strike. But it wasn't just the serpent that he had to worry about. From above, Zarates heard a screeching noise, the sound of wings cutting through the air. He barely had time to raise his hand to shield his face before the bird of prey swooped down. Its sharp talons extended like knives, aiming for his head. The bird's beak snapped at his face, its speed so overwhelming that Zarates couldn't keep up. In one fluid motion, the bird tried to peck at his eyes, its beak just inches away from blinding him. Zarates twisted his head sharply to avoid the deadly strike, but the bird was too fast. His vision blurred, and he felt the wind of the bird's wings rush past his ear. It was a nightmare, a battle on all fronts, and he was being outmaneuvered by creatures he should have been able to handle easily. Zarates knew he had to regain control of the situation before it spiraled completely out of hand. He quickly activated his cloaking device, hoping to disappear from the pet's sight long enough to regroup. As his form vanished from view, he felt a brief moment of relief, until the dog's growls echoed through the darkness. It was no use. The dog, despite not being able to see him, could sense his presence. With its keen instincts, it began circling, its eyes scanning the ground for any disturbance in the environment. Zarates's cloak wasn't foolproof, nothing was perfect. And the dog wasn't just using its eyes, it seemed to have an almost psychic sense, as though it could feel the faintest shifts in the air around it. From the ground, Zarates could hear the serpent's rattles. It wasn't rattling for a warning, though, it was tracking him, following his every move. The bird, meanwhile, had a height advantage, soaring in tight circles above him, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Zarates's every attempt to escape the predator's attacks was met with counter-moves from the animals. They were anticipating him, outthinking him at every turn. Frustration boiled inside Zarates. This was impossible. How could a dog, a serpent, and a bird be outsmarting him? He had faced entire armies equipped with the most advanced weapons the galaxy had to offer, yet these animals were proving to be more than a challenge. Every time he attempted to strike, the dog would dodge, the serpent would slither into a new position, and the bird would dive from above. The more he fought, the more he realized, this wasn't an ordinary fight. Zarates pulled out his energy blaster, trying to take out the dog with a burst of concentrated energy. The shot was precise, aimed directly at the creature's head, but the dog was ready. At the last second, it ducked and rolled, dodging the blast with astonishing speed. The bolt of energy missed by mere inches, and the creature didn't even flinch. It wasn't just avoiding him, it was countering his every move. Meanwhile, the serpent had tightened its grip around his legs, and now it was dragging him toward the ground. Zarates could feel the muscles in his legs straining as he tried to break free, but the serpent's coils were impossibly strong. He reached for his blade, slashing at the serpent's body, but it only recoiled and struck back with a lightning-fast bite, sinking its fangs into his arm. The pain shot through him like fire, and Zarates knew he had to act fast before the venom took hold. The bird, still circling above, saw its opportunity. With a powerful flap of its wings, it dove at Zarates, talons aimed for his face. This time, there was no way to dodge. The bird's speed was too great. Zarates could only twist his body in a desperate attempt to avoid the full brunt of the attack, but the bird's talons raked across his cheek, leaving a deep, bleeding gash. As he fought off the bird and the serpent, the dog was back, charging at him once again, its massive jaws wide open. Zarates's heart raced, he couldn't keep up with all of them at once. The animals were everywhere, and their precision was terrifying. It was no longer just a fight for survival, it was a battle of wits. And in this moment, Zarates was beginning to realize he might not be the predator after all. As Zarates stumbled backward, trying to free himself from the grip of the serpent, something hit him, the cold realization that these pets were not ordinary. They were apex predators, creatures with instincts and abilities far beyond what he had imagined. In all his years as an assassin, he had never encountered anything like this. His mind raced. He had trained for years to take on the most dangerous beings in the galaxy, and yet, here he was, the prey. The pets were not just reacting to him, they were anticipating his every move, predicting his attacks before he could make them. It was as though they had been trained specifically to counter him, to break his every advantage. His confidence, once unwavering, now wavered. These creatures were not simply animals, they were a force to be reckoned with, and they had the upper hand. With every move, Zarates felt himself losing ground, and for the first time, he was unsure if he could complete his mission. The only thing he knew for certain now was that if he didn't find a way out, he would become the prey of these apex predators. And that wasn't a fate he had ever planned for. Zarates, retreating into the shadows, felt a rush of frustration and confusion. He had come to Earth with one goal, to eliminate a family that seemed no more than a bunch of harmless civilians. But now, everything had changed. His confidence was slipping, and he knew that if he wanted to complete the mission, he needed to understand what was truly going on. He had to learn more about the family and why their pets had so easily outsmarted him. Using his advanced alien technology, Zarates tapped into the hidden surveillance system he had implanted around the house. He could hear the family's conversations, their movements, and anything that could give him a clue about their unusual abilities. What he uncovered shocked him to the core. The family wasn't just a typical human family. They were trained, skilled in combat, survival, and tactics that went far beyond what a normal Earth family would know. The patriarch of the family, the father, was an ex-military strategist. Zarates listened in on his thoughts, analyzing the man's previous experiences and training. The man had served in Earth's elite forces, a group known for specializing in high-stakes missions, many of which involved survival in hostile environments. He had been part of a covert military operation that used cutting-edge Earth technology that was now at his disposal. As Zarates dug deeper, he learned that the family's wealth wasn't the source of their power. It was the training they had received, the bond they had with each other, and most importantly, their unique ability to survive and adapt to any situation. The pets were not just animals, they had been raised and bred for survival, for combat situations, and for protection. These creatures were capable of surviving alien threats with ease, trained to recognize and counter any attack. Zarates' shock grew as he continued to scan the house. He had been wrong all along. The humans he had underestimated were far from defenseless. They had a survival instinct stronger than any alien he had encountered. And those pets, those seemingly ordinary animals, had been raised to ensure the survival of the family, specifically against beings like Zarates. Zarates, struggling to process the overwhelming information, started to experience an unsettling feeling. Anxiety. He had always prided himself on his intelligence and skills, on being the apex predator in any environment. He had eliminated countless targets, from entire fleets of ships to powerful alien warriors. But here, on Earth, he was being outsmarted by a family and their pets. How was this possible? It went against everything Zarates knew about the galactic hierarchy. In his mind, humans had always been weak, unworthy of even a second thought in the grand scale of the universe. They were primitive, soft, and easy to manipulate. But now, as the pieces of the puzzle clicked together, Zarates was forced to confront a terrifying reality: the humans were not weak. They were anything but that. His thoughts raced as he considered the military strategist. This man was a master tactician, someone who had experience leading men in life-or-death situations. The family had trained for combat, for the harshest of battles, and it was clear they had passed on their knowledge to their pets. The animals weren't just pets, they were part of a highly efficient fighting force, an extension of the family's will to survive. And now, Zarates realized, he had underestimated the bond the humans shared with these creatures. Zarates felt something he had never experienced before: fear. He, a being who had never known defeat, was now staring at the terrifying possibility that he might not survive this mission. If these humans could outsmart him and outmaneuver him at every turn, what else could they do? What other secrets did Earth hold that he was completely unaware of? The idea that he could be outwitted by an Earth family was deeply unsettling. As a seasoned assassin, Zarates had always believed that no alien race, no matter how powerful, should ever lose to humans. But now, he found himself questioning everything he knew about his mission, and his arrogance started to unravel. Zarates sat silently in the shadows, his mind racing. What had he missed? These weren't just random pets, and this wasn't a simple assignment. He realized now that he had underestimated not only the family's strength but also their intelligence. He had been so certain that his mission would be a success, that Earth's weakness would make it an easy target. Now, he had no choice but to acknowledge the truth: these humans were no mere targets. They were more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. As he analyzed the situation further, Zarates began to unravel the complex bond between the humans and their pets. It wasn't just about loyalty or companionship. It was a survival instinct that had been cultivated and honed over years, passed down through generations. The humans and their pets had been trained to fight together, to think together, and to survive against all odds. In this partnership, the animals were not just guardians or protectors, they were allies, equipped with the skills and instincts to take on any threat, including him. It was then that Zarates realized his arrogance had blinded him. He had assumed that because he was an assassin, because he had the best technology and the most powerful weapons, he could easily defeat anyone, anywhere. But these humans had something far more valuable than any weapon or piece of technology: they had a sense of unity, a bond between them and their creatures that gave them the edge over any adversary. As Zarates's mind grappled with this revelation, his fear grew. He now understood that these weak humans weren't vulnerable at all. They had the strength of their bond, the cunning of their tactics, and the fury of their survival instincts. He was no longer fighting a simple family, he was facing a force that he hadn't fully understood until now. In this moment of realization, Zarates had no choice but to confront his own arrogance. He had thought himself above the humans, but now he was forced to acknowledge the truth. He wasn't the predator here, he was the prey. This understanding came with a bitter aftertaste. Zarates had been defeated not by technology or sheer power, but by something far more dangerous: the human spirit, the will to survive, and the unbreakable bond between the family and their animals. And now, he would have to find a way to either escape this trap or face the consequences of his own underestimation. The question was, could he even survive long enough to try? Zarates had failed before, but this time he was determined. His mind raced as he activated his cloaking device, preparing for a final assault on the family. His invisibility made him confident again, his arrogance surging as he believed the family's pets were no match for his skills. The mission would finally be over, he would eliminate the family and be done with this odd, unexpected obstacle. But, as he stepped closer to the house, something felt different. The atmosphere was thick with tension. It was as if the pets, the so-called creatures, knew he was coming, and they were ready for him. Zarates tried to ignore the growing unease in his chest, telling himself that his technology and stealth were unbeatable. With one swift motion, he moved toward the family's front door, cloaked and invisible, but before he could get any closer, something unexpected happened. The dog suddenly leapt forward, its body a blur as it tackled Zarates with surprising speed and strength. The cloaking device flickered, and for a brief moment, Zarates was visible. The dog, with glowing eyes and a terrifying precision, clamped down on the device, ripping it from his wrist. In that instant, Zarates realized his mistake. The pets were prepared. They had been waiting for him. Before Zarates could react, the serpent, coiled and sleek, lunged at him. Its muscles were like iron, and it wrapped around his legs, squeezing tightly. Zarates gasped as the breath was crushed from his chest, the force of the constriction making it impossible to move. The bird, with its razor-sharp talons, swooped down from above, clawing at his face, and pushing him to the ground with unrelenting force. For the first time in his career, Zarates found himself overwhelmed by opponents he had vastly underestimated. He had failed to account for their intelligence, their teamwork. They weren't just pets, they were protectors. They were trained to fight as a single unit, anticipating every move he made, countering him at every turn. With each attempt to break free, Zeratis was met with new levels of resistance. His body was trapped by the serpent's grip, and he was struggling to regain his bearings. But then, as the intensity of the battle reached its peak, Zeratis felt something he had never expected to encounter: pain, sharp and sudden, unlike any physical wound he had experienced. His chest tightened, and his vision blurred. It wasn't the pressure of the serpent constricting him, it was something much deeper. The shock of the unrelenting assault from the pets, combined with the realization of how deeply he had miscalculated, pushed Zeratis past his physical limits. He staggered, trying to fight the dizziness, but the pressure in his chest only grew worse. He had fought for centuries, taken down entire civilizations, and slain countless enemies. But now, on this insignificant planet, at the hands of what he had thought were weak, ordinary creatures, Zeratis felt something he hadn't experienced before: vulnerability. His heart raced, then ceased. A violent, stabbing pain struck through his chest, and he fell to his knees. The world around him seemed to spin, and for the first time, he realized that he had lost control. The pets were no longer attacking him just as an enemy, they had become the instruments of his defeat. His cloak, once his greatest advantage, was now lying useless at his side. His energy weapons, his strength, his pride, all seemed meaningless in the face of the overwhelming unity of the family and their pets. Zeratis collapsed, unable to move, unable to breathe, unable to continue the mission. He was defeated, not just by the pets, but by his own arrogance and failure to understand his enemies. The very creatures he thought would be easy targets had brought him to the brink of death. The reality hit him like a ton of bricks: Earth wasn't weak. The humans weren't weak. As Zeratis lay on the ground, unable to move, his mind raced through the countless battles he had won, the endless lives he had taken. He had always prided himself on being the apex predator, the one who never failed, the one who was unstoppable. He had destroyed worlds, defeated entire fleets of alien soldiers, and struck terror into the hearts of those who crossed him. But now, lying on the ground, struggling for breath, he realized that all his victories meant nothing here. The family, these humans, had something he had never encountered before: an unshakable will to survive. They were not just defending themselves, they were fighting for something deeper, for each other. The bond between them and their pets was unlike anything Zeratis had seen. Their unity made them stronger than any alien force he had ever faced. And that was the key to their power. The pets were no longer just animals, they were protectors. Zeratis' mind flashed back to his earlier thoughts: the pets had been raised for survival. They were no mere domestic creatures. They were designed to protect, to fight, to outwit any threat. The dog, the serpent, and the bird were not random creatures. They were tools of survival, sharpened by a bond of trust with their human family. They had fought with a purpose, and that purpose had been to defend their family and protect Earth. As Zeratis lay there, his chest still tightening, he felt a wave of bitterness wash over him. His arrogance, his belief in his own superiority, had led to his downfall. He had assumed that because he was an alien assassin with superior technology and unmatched skills, he could easily wipe out any target. But now, he realized that there was something far more dangerous than weapons or technology: the unpredictable power of human resilience. He had been wrong about Earth. He had been wrong about the humans. And he had been wrong about the pets. The very creatures he thought were weak, mere obstacles in his path, had become the defenders of this planet, turning the tables on him. Zeratis, the feared assassin, was now nothing more than a victim of his own underestimation. As his consciousness faded, Zeratis realized the bitter truth: he had been defeated by the heart. The heart of humanity, the fierce love that bound them together. A love that no technology or weapon could ever destroy. And as he lay there, beaten and broken, he knew that he would never again underestimate the strength of those he had once considered weak. As Zeratis lay defeated on the ground, his mind was reeling from everything that had happened. The pets, the family, the strange new power they possessed, he could no longer deny it. Earth was not the weak, defenseless planet he had thought it to be. In his final moments, as he struggled to comprehend the situation, the family revealed the full extent of their power. The family patriarch, the father, stepped forward, his expression calm but resolute. It was clear he had been waiting for this moment. He had known that an enemy would come one day, and he had prepared for it. Zeratis, weakened and broken, could only stare in disbelief as the patriarch spoke. "You thought we were weak. You thought Earth was nothing more than a defenseless planet. But you were wrong." The patriarch's voice was steady, and his words carried a weight that only someone who had spent years in preparation could impart. With emotion, he signaled for the pets to step back, and they immediately obeyed. The dog, the serpent, and the bird, once fierce and relentless in their attack, now stood at ease, their eyes focused on Zeratis as if they were waiting for his next move. The bond between the family and their pets was undeniable. "This isn't just a family," the patriarch continued, his eyes locking onto Zeratis. "We've trained our pets for years. We've built our home to withstand any threat. Earth's creatures have evolved in ways you couldn't possibly understand. They are more than just animals, they are the apex predators of this world, and we are their protectors." Zeratis felt a deep sense of shame, realizing how outmatched he was. Earth, with its seemingly simple life forms, had proven to be far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. The patriarch wasn't just a man, he was a master strategist, someone who had thought ahead, who had anticipated threats and prepared for them. The technology of Earth might not have been as advanced as the weapons Zeratis was used to, but the humans had something far more powerful, adaptability and the bond they shared with nature. As the patriarch spoke, Zeratis could hear the quiet hum of advanced security systems hidden throughout the house. The family's home was not just a place of comfort, it was a fortress, designed to protect against any enemy, no matter how powerful. Zeratis had walked into a trap that he couldn't even begin to understand, and now he was paying the price. The family had never needed to use their full strength until now. But now that they had revealed their capabilities, Zeratis saw them for what they truly were, a force to be reckoned with. These were not just ordinary humans. They were survivors, protectors, and warriors, and they had learned to live in harmony with the animals of their planet in a way that no alien ever could. Zeratis, still lying helplessly on the ground, could no longer fight back. His pride had been shattered. The once feared assassin had become nothing more than a captured prey, trapped in a world where he no longer understood the rules. The family, in their quiet strength, had won, not through brute force or advanced technology, but through the unbreakable bond they had with each other and the creatures of their world. The patriarch approached him slowly, his gaze never leaving Zeratis. He wasn't angry, but there was a quiet resolve in his eyes. This wasn't just about winning the fight, it was about sending a message. "You were never meant to conquer Earth," the patriarch said, his voice unwavering. "We don't need advanced technology to survive. We have something far stronger than that. And we won't let anyone, no matter how powerful they think they are, come here and threaten us." Zeratis, too weak to resist, was taken into custody. The family didn't kill him. Instead, they imprisoned him, locking him in a secure cell where he could do no harm. They made sure he was well fed and treated with respect, because they had nothing to prove to him. They had already won. The message was clear. Earth was not to be underestimated. The humans and their pets had fought back with everything they had, and they had won. Zeratis, the ruthless assassin, had been defeated by a family's love for their planet, their animals, and each other. There would be no more fear of alien invaders on Earth. The humans had proven they could defend their world, not with technology, but with resilience and unity. As Zeratis sat in his cell, his thoughts turned bitter. He had underestimated the humans, assuming they were weak, that their creatures were nothing more than pets. But now, locked in a cage, he saw things differently. The humans had outsmarted him at every turn. They had defeated him, not because they had superior technology, but because they had something no alien race could ever replicate, the ability to adapt, to survive, and to protect the things they loved. The battle between Zeratis and the humans wasn't just a fight between two different species, it was a fight between oppression and freedom, between arrogance and humility. Zeratis, representing the advanced alien forces that sought to dominate and control, had believed that technology and power were enough to conquer any world. But the humans, with their bond to nature, their unpredictable resilience, and their undying will to protect what they loved, had proven him wrong. In the end, this was a story of the underdog winning. Zeratis had come to Earth expecting an easy victory, but instead, he had been humbled by the very creatures he had thought were beneath him. The humans had shown that true strength doesn't always come from the most advanced weapons or technology, sometimes, it comes from love, unity, and the strength to stand up against any force that threatens what you hold dear. The family's victory wasn't just about beating Zeratis. It was about showing that the spirit of humanity was stronger than any alien force. And as the story concluded, the message was clear: Earth was no longer a target. The humans had proven they were a force to be reckoned with, and anyone who dared challenge them would face the consequences of underestimating the true strength of the human spirit. In this classic tale of good versus evil, it was humanity that emerged victorious, showing that no matter how advanced or powerful the enemy, there is always something more powerful than technology, the power of human resilience and the unbreakable bonds between them and the creatures they protect.